This is a full story. Kitten wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. Hailey always felt that she was supporting me, even though I had never spent her money. After her first love returned, she pushed me into another woman's room. Help my sister close a business deal, and my sister will reward you. But when I truly started dating that woman, Hailey completely broke down. I didn't say anything. Who allowed you to change your heart? I accompanied Hailey to the KTV playing until late at night. She playfully tilted my chin, and I flinched uncomfortably. I didn't understand why she always did this, like teasing a little puppy or kitten, even though I was much taller than her petite frame. But she never acted this way with Tony. She turned red just from brushing against Tony's hand, even though he had always been indifferent to her, even though I was her boyfriend. Hailey tilted my chin again and asked, "Rocky, how long have we been together?" I pushed her hand away and replied, "We've been dating for 3 years. Her best friend teased from the side, "Oh, is the little puppy getting angry? Hailey, you should buy him something to appease him." Hailey laughed, "What do you want?" I shook my head saying nothing. I was exhausted from explaining. For 3 years with Hailey, I hadn't taken a single cent from her. My card was neatly placed in her drawer. All the things Hailey bought for me remained untouched. There was only once when she gave me an art book filled with her childhood drawings, and I cherished that book. I often lay on my bed looking through it, but Hailey still saw me as her little pet, not as her boyfriend. She nestled closer into my arms like a little kitten finding a comfortable position, tracing circles on my chest with her fingers. "You know Tony is back." I froze for a moment. Tony, Hailey's first love. Hailey even called out his name when we were together. Since that slip of the tongue, I hadn't stayed over at her place. Today was the first time I saw her in half a month. Like a kitten, she rubbed her face against me. "Rocky, this time with Tony. We need to have a conclusion." My hand stiffened, still holding her. My throat felt dry acid surging up and burning my heart. After a long pause, I finally croaked out, "So what do you mean?" Hailey slipped a card into my hand and snuggled closer. "Rocky, we might be reaching the end." I stared at the card saying nothing. For 3 years, I had poured my heart into Hailey. Even though everyone thought I was just after her money, I never bothered to explain. I braved the rain to hold her tight because she was afraid of thunder. On snowy days, I flew back with a handful of snow just to show her what it looked like. But later, I learned it had snowed heavily in the city where Tony was. What she wanted to see wasn't the snow I brought back. I worried about her stomach problems, fretted over her drinking habit, and thought about how to help her relieve work stress. I cared for her tirelessly, even annoying my dad by letting him think I was too romantically involved. Yet still, I couldn't compete with Tony, not even with Tony's gentle words. My stomach ached badly. I swallowed hard and raised the whiskey in front of me, downing it in one go. The pain intensified, but the discomfort somehow steadied me. I gently pushed Hailey away. "All right." I forced a smile at Hailey. "I'll leave it to you." Hailey blinked, seemingly surprised by my swift agreement. "Rocky, I'll help you find a job." I shook my head and refused, rising to my feet and brushing off my clothes. "No need." "Hailey, everything you've given me in these 3 years, whether it's the card, the watch, or those limited edition sneakers, I've locked them in a safe. The password is your birthday." I turned to leave. Hailey grabbed the corner of my shirt. "Rocky, wait." She tilted her delicate face up to look at me. "Aren't you even the slightest bit sad about the breakup?" I said nothing and just walked away. As I was about to exit the room, Hailey hurried after me, phone in hand. There was no one singing now. The room was quiet, and I could even hear Tony's voice from the other end of the call. "You let him go to the room, and I believe you guys aren't still in touch." Hailey hung up, her expression calm, but her beautiful fox-like eyes narrowed, a sign she was getting angry. Pointing at my chest after ending the call, she said, "Rocky, I'll ask you one more time. How come you agreed to break up so easily? Aren't you upset?" I looked down and smiled. "Isn't it you who wants to break up? I'm just following your wishes. How can I be wrong?" Hailey squinted her eyes again. After a while, she laughed. "All right, very good." She pulled out a card and tossed it at me. "This is the room key for upstairs. There's a woman inside. I need you to keep her company to ensure my negotiations tomorrow go smoothly. If you do well, I'll give you a handsome breakup fee. Otherwise, you'll really get nothing." Her fingers brushed my face, her lips curling up, but her gaze was icy cold. My stomach hurt again, along with the ache in my heart. I grabbed her wrist. "Hailey, what do you take me for?" "Just," Hailey smiled at me, "a big toy. Once I'm done with you, I might let my friends have a turn." I stared at Hailey for a long time. This was the woman I had loved for so long. Even her best friend thought it was inappropriate, standing up to stop her, saying, "Enough, let's just end this properly." But Hailey stubbornly handed me the room card. "Are you going or not?" I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of desolation inside. I looked down at the card, stared at it for a long while, and then smiled. "Let's go." I took the card from her, turned around, and left. Hailey shouted behind me, "Rocky, you." I stopped in my tracks, waiting for her to say something, but in the end she said nothing, not a word. I smiled bitterly and sighed. Just this once, as she wished. Then I would cut off all attachments, never to linger again in this life. I took the elevator upstairs and ran into the hotel manager. Seeing me, he quickly stepped aside. "Rocky is here. Is there something you need to tell us, President Rocky?" I shook my head. "Personal matters." Yes, the room card Hailey gave me was from my family's hotel. Including Hailey, she was an executive of our group. However, I hadn't started working there yet, so most people didn't know. I was afraid that a disparity in status would change our love, so so I didn't mention it to Hailey. I even knew that the room was occupied by one of our group's major clients, because the negotiations Hailey was involved in were all earned through my efforts with my father. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door. The room was pitch black, with only a dim yellow floor lamp on beside the sofa. A graceful figure sat on the sofa taking a nap, her naturally curly long hair draping across her chest, dressed in a comfortable beige cashmere dress. This must be the major client, Serena. Hearing the door open, she blinked her eyes, her long eyelashes fluttering and focusing intently on me. After a moment, she smiled. That Hailey really goes all out. She stood up and stretched. I just heard she got herself a little puppy. I was just joking about it, but I didn't think she really took it seriously. I lowered my gaze. I'm just casually looking around too. If it's just your words, I can leave. Anger aside, I was unwilling to belittle myself. Serena raised an eyebrow. She didn't force you to come, right? Then I couldn't let you in. I didn't respond. Serena furrowed her brows. It really is that way. That what do I don't do this kind of thing, you should head back. I nodded and turned to leave. Once home, I locked myself inside for 3 whole days without going out. On the 4th day, my dad dragged me out saying he wanted to take me out for a meal, to expand my network for when I eventually inherit the family business. When we entered the private dining room, I saw a familiar figure sitting at the table, Serena. Upon seeing me, she raised an eyebrow, her cherry lips parted slightly, but in the end she said nothing. Only a knowing smile lingered on her face. I knew she was laughing at me, but I could only pretend not to know. Greeting her warmly. No matter how upset I was, I still had to manage business clients. Serena raised her glass to toast me. President Rocky, cheers to you. There aren't many innocent boys left these days. She smiled, her eyes narrowing, clearly reflecting the word fool. I also knew that in this circle most of the peers looked for models and flings. They were the ones casting others aside, not the other way around. I was the only odd one running to be a kept man, and hadn't succeeded at that either. I lowered my head and smiled wryly, raising my glass and downing it. President Serena is right. I filled my glass again and toasted to Serena. I apologize for the embarrassment. The alcohol hit my troubled heart hard. It was so spicy it made tears come to my eyes. My father, who always pampered me, quickly patted my back. Look at you. Drink more slowly, you're making President Serena laugh. I coughed and wiped my eyes, chuckling. Yeah, I guess I do look like a joke. I nodded towards Serena. Sorry for making you laugh. Serena looked at my red-rimmed eyes for a while, saying nothing, just nodding. For the rest of the night, she didn't toast me again, but her gaze softened significantly. After dinner, my dad asked me to drive Serena back to the hotel. We sat in silence in the car with Serena gazing out the window. Just before we arrived at the hotel, she turned to look at me and said, I'm sorry. I was a bit confused. Sorry for what you didn't do anything. Serena shook her head. I was initially laughing at you in my mind, but then I suddenly realized I was laughing at your suffering. I shouldn't laugh at someone in pain. I'm sorry. I lowered my gaze and shook my head. No need to apologize. I deserved it. When we reached the hotel, I got out and opened the door for Serena, saying, I'll just wait for you here. But Serena looked at me and said, don't you want to drink a little more? She smiled, narrowing her beautiful eyes. I brought whiskey. I hesitated. It's quite late. She was an important client, and I didn't want to refuse her outright. Besides, it was a bit dangerous for a girl to invite me up. Serena laughed. I'm not afraid of you, so why are you afraid of me? Though she was smiling, there was a glint of seriousness in her eyes. I've also been hurt. I understand your pain. I was touched by the fleeting pain in her eyes. If there were a mirror now, I believed my eyes would reflect the same sorrow. I closed the car door and said, then I guess I have no choice. These few days I had been dreaming every time I closed my eyes. Hailey's cold eyes, the room card she tossed to me, her pairing with Tony. I felt like I couldn't hold on any longer. I really needed a drink to help me forget the heartfelt 3 years that led to this ending. I walked into the lobby with Serena. The lobby manager rushed over, respectfully about to speak, but a shocked voice overshadowed him. Rocky. I froze for a moment. It was Hailey's voice. She sounded surprised but more angry. What are you doing here? I turned and saw Hailey coming out of the hotel restaurant with a few clients, narrowing her eyes at me. She looked at me, then at Serena beside me, and forced a stiff smile. President Serena, it seems my recommendation suits you. Serena smiled and linked her arm with mine, nodding at her. I like it quite a lot. I was taken aback by Serena's action. Hailey's face turned pale, her voice trembling a bit. President Serena, can I borrow Rocky for 2 minutes? I suddenly remembered there's something I need to ask him. Serena glanced at me, saw I didn't refuse, and shrugged. Just 2 minutes. We're in a hurry to go upstairs. Hailey bit her lip and beckoned me with her finger. I didn't move. Hailey gritted her teeth. Rocky, can you come here? Her delicate and beautiful face was filled with anger, the coldness in her eyes intensifying. I took a deep breath and walked toward her, wondering what she had to say at this point. Surely it wasn't an apology. Hailey pulled me a few steps away, her fingers cold. Her expression darkened as she gritted her teeth. Rocky, are you dirty? I was taken aback. I could accept anything she said, but calling me dirty was unacceptable. What do you mean, dirty? I pressed my lips together, asking her. Hailey's eyes seemed to burn with icy fire. I thought you wouldn't really go upstairs. You actually did. She inspected my face, my neck, as if she was itching to see my body. buddy. What did you guys do, huh? Seeing her furious expression suddenly struck me as both surprising and amusing. I looked down at her trembling hands and asked, didn't you tell me to go up? Hailey, I was just following your words. I was upset with you. I was mad at you. The fire in Hailey's eyes only grew stronger, reddening the area around them. How would I know you actually went to bed with someone? Rocky, do you even have any shame? Hailey, an executive, usually kept her emotions in check. She was often aloof with me, more often teasing than anything else. But in this moment, her eyes were red, her lips quivering with anger as if she were a child who had just lost her favorite toy. It made her seem more genuine, a little too much like the child she once was. I closed my eyes and sighed. Hailey, I have to go. We're done. Having said that, I turned and walked towards Serena, letting her link her arm with mine as we took the elevator upstairs. Behind us, I heard Hailey's low, panicked voice tinged with anger. Rocky. I paused for a moment but kept walking forward without looking back. I drank a lot with Serena. I stayed silent, she stayed silent, only pouring drinks in silence, raising our glasses in silence, and downing them in silence. I looked out the window thinking about the past 3 years. She gazed outside, lost in her thoughts. After a long while, a glimmer of mist appeared in her eyes, and she smiled at me saying, why are there so many unappreciative people in this world? Her smile was bitter as she continued, don't they feel sad for stepping on other people's sincerity? I shook my head and finished my drink. Serena turned her head to look at the lights outside, and a tear formed from the mist in her eyes, trickling down her face. We drank for 5 hours, from evening until dawn. I drunkenly carried the sleeping Serena to bed, covered her with a blanket, and staggered downstairs. As I reached the lobby, I heard a voice calling me. Rocky. I turned around to see Hailey, curled up on the lobby sofa, wrapped in a shawl, her hair disheveled and her makeup smudged. With red eyes, she called out, Rocky, I've been waiting for you all night. Why did it take you so long to come down? She walked over to me. I thought about it carefully. You're not that kind of person. Nothing happened between you and Serena, right? I rubbed my temples, unable to find words. My head throbbed painfully, and my heart ached as well. Hailey stared at me, seemingly unwilling to back down without an answer. Suddenly, I felt like laughing. In the past, I was the one waiting night after night, unable to sleep. I waited for her to say she was working overtime, but the office building was dark, and in her friend's social media, Tony held up a glass smiling at Hailey, once, twice, again and again, until I lost hope. She waited up for me all night. Why couldn't she have done it earlier? I laughed out loud. Hailey, does this still concern you? Is there any need for an explanation between us? Hailey was taken aback, as if searching for a reason. After a moment, she said, you owe me money, how can I not ask? I pressed my temples, feeling disappointed yet again. It turned out that disappointment stacked to a certain height becomes despair. I was desperate regarding Hailey. I covered my forehead, suppressing the headache. Hailey, if you cared just a little, you would have noticed that I haven't spent a penny of yours in these 3 years. I never touched your card. Unfortunately, Hailey didn't believe me. Then how do you explain what you're wearing, the watch, the handbag? That's my own money. I interrupted her, having lost all patience. Hailey, the people around you are all currying favor with you for money. So you think everyone is like that? But I'm not. I told her word by word. I am different from them. Hailey bit her lip. Rocky, why don't we talk a bit more? I shook my head. What is there to talk about, Hailey? I decided to tear open old wounds and make things clear. Is it about how every time Tony calls, you push me away to look for him? Or when Tony comes back, you work overtime while the office is completely dark? Even the security guard is asleep. Or how with a single word from Tony, you wouldn't even show me the mercy to break up, shoving me into another woman's room as if I were just a toy? Even though it's all in the past, even though I have moved on, I still trembled all over. Those memories became like steel needles, piercing my heart incessantly, making it hard for me to breathe. I took a deep breath and asked Hailey, so what do you want to talk about? I forced out a sarcastic smile. Or do you want to stop seeing Tony and want me back? Hailey fell silent. Then she suddenly cried. Rocky, she covered her face. I can't do it. I've waited for him too long. I shut my eyes. The pain in my heart twisted my insides. I heard my voice indifferent and fleeting. Fine, then don't worry about me, okay? Don't care if I drink with anyone. Don't care whose room I enter or whose bed I'm in. From now on, it has nothing to do with you. Hailey sniffled softly. I turned and walked toward the door. The cold wind of dawn pierced through, waking me from my drunkenness and carrying away the last trace of reluctance. After I got home, I stumbled into the bedroom, searching drunkenly. After a long time, I found an art book. It was the only thing I had left from Hailey. Hailey used to draw beautifully as a child, and in that art book, there were vivid illustrations of 2 children, a pretty lively little girl and a quiet little boy. The little girl held onto the boy's hand wherever she went, refusing to let go, no matter what. Even when older kids bullied them, they held hands tightly, unwilling to separate. The paper in the book had yellowed, and many pencil lines had faded, yet I treasured it deeply. When Hailey was about to throw the book away, I picked it up and took it home, looking through it often. Only when I gazed at the art book could I feel that Hailey once gave me warmth. She used to hold my hand firmly, never willing to release it. After closing the art book, book. I fell asleep with my clothes on. In my dreams, I was lost in a jumble of memories. At times, I saw young Hailey holding my hand as we ran away, and at other times, I saw the current Hailey coldly looking at me saying, "I'm tired of playing this game, let's part ways." I slept until 10 o'clock. Before waking up, my dad had called me several times. "Come to the company at noon. Take Serena out to have some fun and visit some sites." I realized my dad was especially eager for me to meet Serena. In our family, we typically end up in arranged marriages, while others accept their fate. I was the only one who thought I could be with Hailey till the end. I defied my dad, refusing any arranged dates, which is why I hadn't been called to work in the company yet. Even now, I was still unwilling to marry someone I had no feelings for, unwilling to navigate life as mere duties. After having children, only to end up doing our own things afterward. I had initially planned to refuse, but for some reason, I recalled the tear that fell from Serena's eye last night. As she looked out into the night, that tear fell silently onto the carpet, and even her face was expressionless. Yet when the night passed through her elongated eyes, I caught sight of a shadow of sadness. That shadow made it impossible for me to refuse. So at noon, I drove to the building of my company. I waited in the lobby scrolling through my phone for Serena to come down. While scrolling, a pair of beige high heels caught my eye. I thought Serena had arrived, smiling as I looked up. "Been waiting for you for a long time." But when I looked up, I saw Hailey. She was in a professional suit, wearing light makeup, but it couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes, making her beautiful face appear exhausted. She stared at me saying softly, "Rocky, you came to find me, right? But what use does it serve now? That day when I called out to you like that, you didn't even turn around." I froze for a moment. "No, I'm not looking for you." Hailey frowned. "Besides looking for me, what else could you be here for?" "I'm waiting for someone." Just as I finished speaking, someone tugged at my sleeve. Then that person hooked their arm around mine, smiling brightly. "Shall we go?" I turned to see Serena. Today, she was dressed in denim, her hair styled into 2 braids, much more charming than the last 2 times I saw her. She tilted her head and smiled at me. "Aren't you here to take me out?" I looked at her smooth forehead and the dimples on her smiling lips, and suddenly felt bathed in sunlight, warm all over. I nodded. "Let's go, I'll take you to the wetland park first. Then we can go hiking." As I walked out with Serena, I didn't even notice that she was linked to my arm. But behind us, Hailey shouted, "Rocky, come back." I didn't stop. Hailey's voice was filled with a cry. "Come back. Look back at me." I waved my hand behind me, driving away with Serena. Many people in the company were watching my car, and Hailey looked the most shocked of all. Hailey sent me a WeChat message. "Where did you get that sports car? Did Serena give it to you, Rocky, or are you with her for the money?" After a while, she sent another message. "Rocky, you're not that kind of person, right? Serena's world is different from ours. She's just playing around with you." I replied, "Aren't you just playing around too?" Hailey didn't respond. Serena took my phone away. "When you're out to have fun, enjoy it. Why look so gloomy?" She gazed out the window. "There's nothing that a drink can't fix. If one isn't enough, then have 2. I recalled that tear of hers, unable to hold back my curiosity. "Boss Serena, it sounds like you have some unresolved past too." Serena withdrew her gaze, smiled at me. "Call me Seer." She looked at the scenery of the wetlands park and calmly said, "My ex didn't know my family background back then and kept professing his love for me. When I took over the family business, I refused his unreasonable demands, so he had someone kidnap me hoping to make a fortune. Once he got the money, he wanted to silence me." I was stunned. After a moment, I apologized. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked." Serena shook her head. "It's fine, it's in the past." She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "But during the time, I relied on alcohol to get through it. That's why I suggested you drink. I know how painful it is to have your heart betrayed." She spoke lightly, but I suddenly remembered that Serena was only 26, forced to take the reins after her father had a stroke. How desperate she must have felt when she was kidnapped by someone she loved. I hesitated for a moment, then gently patted her shoulder. "It's all behind you now." I took Serena around to explore, stopping in between to check my phone, and saw Hailey's friend posted on Moments. "Hailey is engaged to the love of her life." The photo was of Hailey standing in the company lobby, reaching for a bouquet of roses from Tony with a ring sparkling on her finger. Hailey's friend commented, "Some people successfully miss their last chance for reconciliation." Looking at the photo of Hailey and Tony embracing, I couldn't quite express my feelings. It felt like whether I extended my neck or pulled back, it was still a knife, and that knife had finally dropped. Instead, I felt a sense of relief. I put down my phone and took Serena hiking, dining, and watching a movie. When I sent Serena home, it was already 10 at night when I received a call. It was Hailey, slightly tipsy. "Rocky, didn't you see Moments? Why didn't you react?" I laughed. "What kind of reaction do you want? Do you want me to congratulate you and give some gift?" Hailey fell silent, her voice hoarse. "Rocky, you're not happy, are you?" She said. "As long as you're unhappy, just say a word." And she didn't finish her sentence. I lowered my eyes, scoffing, and then what surely Hailey, it's not about rejecting Tony. Hailey paused for a moment, then paused again. I laughed out loud. Hailey, if you want my blessing, here it is. I wish you and Tony a long life together. Stop being conflicted, you care about him. Hailey didn't reply. After a while, just as I wanted to hang up, she said, I thought I couldn't let go, but now I don't know. Rocky, I don't know how to choose. Seeing you with Serena makes me feel like there's a fire burning inside me. Without saying a word, I hung up the phone. Disappointment can be repaired, but despair cannot. My dad was pleased to see me stop moving out for a mysterious female employee and encouraged me to take my position at the company earlier. It all started with collaborating with Serena. During that time, Hailey sent me a WeChat message. Rocky, I regret it. I ignored her and blocked her. From calls to WeChat, she wasn't spared on Weibo QQ doing, and Zaya Hongshu either. I wanted her to completely leave my world. Hailey's best friend scolded me on WeChat for driving Hailey crazy. Later, Tony called me, Rocky, you play hard to get very well. Unfortunately, you are just a plaything. Hailey won't care about you. After hanging up, I looked at the custom suit my dad had ordered for me, lost in thought. I wondered if Tony knew that his new boss arriving tomorrow was named Rocky. The next day, during the department meeting, the collaborating department also attended. Tony and Hailey as managers were in the meeting room, waiting for the chairman's son to arrive. They were on high alert, wearing eager smiles, until I walked in through the door. Hailey stood up first. Rocky, what are you doing here? Before she could finish her sentence, the assistant introduced me with utmost respect. This is the son of President Rocky. Let's call him President Rocky from now on. We need to cooperate well and perform excellently. Hailey froze. I watched her face slowly turn pale. Rocky, you are. It's no wonder she didn't know I had never come to the company and never mentioned my background. So obedient and easy to manage, who would have guessed I was my dad's only son? I took my seat and raised my hand for her to sit down too. Manager Hailey, no need to be polite. Let's sit and talk. Hailey stood there as if she couldn't move. It was Tony who pulled her down into his seat, and his face turned even worse, becoming dark like liver. I lowered my head to look at the documents, letting them report one by one. When it was Hailey's turn, she stammered, and I interrupted her. If Manager Hailey can't explain clearly, get someone who can. Now I was dealing with the family business my dad had worked so hard to build, not a place for sentimental matters. Tony did all right aside from trembling hands. He managed to get through it. After an hour-long meeting, as I was leaving the meeting room, Hailey seemed to finally snap out of it, chasing after me. Rocky, you. Unfortunately, once again, she didn't get to finish a complete sentence because Serena was waiting outside my office, holding a bouquet of sunflowers. Everything went smoothly. She smiled brightly, and the sunlight shone on her and the sunflowers warm and inviting. I smiled as I accepted them. Thank you, come in and sit. Hailey also wanted to come in, but I closed the door, keeping her outside. Serena sat across from me, helping me arrange the sunflowers. President Rocky, our collaboration will temporarily end next month. She smiled and said, I probably won't be coming here as frequently. I suddenly felt a bit lost. I didn't know why. After thinking it over, I attributed this feeling of loss to her being there for me when I was struggling the most. I watched her arrange the flowers for a while, then inexplicably asked, can I still reach out to you in the city where you are? Serena looked up at me, her eyes sparkling, and after a few seconds she smiled and looked down. You are always welcome. I swallowed hard, suddenly feeling nervous, as if there was more to say, but the office door was abruptly pushed open, interrupting me. I looked over with displeasure, and Hailey stumbled in, tears in her eyes, no longer composed. Are you really the only son of your family? I nodded. Serena added with a smile, yes, Manager Hailey, you treated President Rocky's son like a puppy for 3 years. Hailey's face became even paler. Why didn't you tell me? I gazed at her impeccably made-up face, suddenly realizing I couldn't find her childhood look on that face anymore. I closed my eyes, utterly disappointed, not wanting to hide any longer. Hailey, I'm not just the son of your family. I had another name when I was little, called Hebrew. Bang. Hailey collapsed into a sitting position on the floor, knocking over the teacup in the process. Her hand was cut and bleeding profusely, yet she remained oblivious, just staring at me, as if she didn't recognize me anymore. After a while, she suddenly seemed to recall something terrifying. What have I done? It seemed she was asking me, but also questioning herself. What have I really done? When I was a child, my dad was a wealthy second-generation heir, but my grandpa fell into gambling addiction, squandered the family fortune, and abandoned my grandma and our family, disappearing without a trace. From then on, we fell into poverty, living in a slum, struggling desperately to repay our debts. The child who was once the richest in school suddenly became the most pitiful, naturally attracting bullying. At that time, there was a girl named Hailey in school who was also bullied because her dad was disabled and her mom was mentally ill, leaving her with no one to support her. When I was bullied for the first time, Hailey suddenly appeared from nowhere, grabbing my hand and quickly running away. She knew the surroundings well and had a knack for dodging. so no one could catch us. That was the first time I met her. In the days that followed, Hailey and I banded together for warmth. We faced beatings together, fought back together, had our meager lunches stolen together when hungry together, and begged the small shop for credit to get something to eat. Later, my dad took me to another city to develop, transferring my school. Hailey and I didn't want to part, even running away from home once. But my dad reported me missing before he found me. When we had to separate, Hailey and I promised that I would definitely come back to find her. Throughout the years apart, there wasn't a day I didn't think about the girl with whom I had shared hardships. Fortunately, my family later made money and could return to develop further. Unfortunately, my grandma, worn out by her efforts, passed away. My dad said my grandpa had abandoned his wife and children, while my grandma dedicated her life to us. So my father and I should take my grandma's surname. Thus I went from Hebrew to Rocky. When my family returned, Hailey just happened to work in my company. She was outstanding and hardworking, but she didn't recognize me. As I approached her, I discovered she was particularly averse to mentioning the past, having cut ties with everyone who knew it. I hid the past, worked hard to pursue her, and finally stood by her side. I thought I was fulfilling my promise, but unexpectedly, I was just a backup accompanying her for a while. Now looking at Hailey, who was sitting on the ground, the love I once had for her had become completely calm. Yet the Hebrew from my childhood was crying pitifully in my heart. We had clearly promised to be together when we grew up. We had clearly held hands as if we were the closest of friends. But in the end, we ended up like this. I called someone to bring iodine and a band-aid, squatted down, cleaned Hailey's wound with iodine, applied the band-aid, and smiled at her. I once thought we would truly fulfill our promise and be together. Hailey burst into tears, her lips trembling, unable to speak. Only muffled sobs could be heard, fragmented and painful. But unknowingly, we have come this far. I helped her up, standing beside her. Hailey, we can't go any further. It ends here. Tears streamed down Hailey's face. Her beautiful eyes were filled with pain and pleading. After a long moment, she finally trembled to speak. If I had known it was you, I would have never treated you like this. It's useless. I opened the office door. Hailey, the best time has passed now. We have reached a deadlock. That day, Hailey stood at my office door for a long time, crying in despair. Eventually, my dad was alerted. When he came down, I was handing Hailey an art book. This is the only thing I've kept from everything you've given me. Now that I think about it, there's really no need to keep it. We all have to look ahead. Hailey's trembling hands flipped through the book, looking at the nave strokes that depicted two children. One was being hit, the other crying out in pain. One was running away, the other distracting the pursuer. One was holding the other, staring at the sky in silence. On the days they separated, the two promised they would definitely be together in the future. At that time, every stroke was sincere, making the following days seem like a joke. Hailey turned to the last page. Tears fell onto the art book. She closed the book, turned and ran away crying. Her stumbling figure and trembling shoulders merged instantly with that little girl who had been chased in childhood. My dad stood next to me, asking, "Are you keeping her?" I was momentarily dazed. Keep her if performance is good. Otherwise, forget it. Deep down, I really believed in Hailey. That little girl who had struggled out of the slums, had changed her temperament, had severed her past. She truly deserved her place now. She just fell short of the promise made in childhood. But it's okay, it's all in the past. I turned to Serena. "I'll be on a business trip to your place this month. Are you welcoming me?" Serena quietly looked at me. After a moment, she handed me a sunflower. "Welcome." Tony resigned. There was no other choice for him, as he couldn't face me day and night, taking orders from me. But he had received considerable help from Hailey in his career, and after resigning, he struggled to find a suitable job, often thinking about coming back. However, I don't go back on my decisions, nor do I let others think of me as a fallback. In both career and love, it's the same. After that day, Hailey took a leave of absence, having not taken a day off in years. She requested a full month. A month later, she stood waiting for me outside the office building. She had lost a lot of weight, her hair long and untrimmed, her elegant suit replaced by casual wear, the same couple's outfit we had bought together back then. Seeing me, she burst into tears before speaking. "Rocky, this past month, I visited every temple I could find, wishing to turn back time." She forced a smile. "I know it sounds ridiculous, but I can't help it. What if there really is a deity listening? If time could really turn back, I would never have treated you this way." I glanced at my watch. "Hailey, I have to pick someone up for dinner. Let's keep this short. Also, work's been busy lately. I suggest you refrain from taking leave unless it's for health or family reasons." Hailey was stunned. After a moment, she managed a wry smile. "So I have no chance left, do I?" I remained silent as I spotted Serena. She was approaching me with a bright smile. "I came early thinking you might get stuck in traffic." I reached out for her hand. "Let's go, we should finish dinner early and catch a movie." We walked hand in hand, forgetting that Hailey was still beside us. Behind us, I heard faint sobbing. "Rocky, I came this time to resign. I can't face you anymore." Serena stopped in her tracks, looking at me. Should I say something? I shook my head. No need. Turning back to Hailey, I smiled sincerely, just like I did when we were kids. "Hailey, I agree. I wish you all the best in your future." I turned away and led Serena away. The sobbing grew louder, eventually turning into anguished wails. But I couldn't look back. There was still a long way ahead, waiting for Serena and me to walk together. I held tightly onto Serena. Serena's hand, and she gently squeezed mine back. This time neither of us would let go. Hailey's outside story. I don't like when others bring up my childhood. It was the most shameful, the most unbearable time of my life. Later I studied hard, worked tirelessly, all to shake off that shadow of my childhood. The one laughed at bullied, but the one thing I could never escape was the smile of a child. His smile was sincere. His name was Hebrew. His family was once wealthy, but later fell into decline, becoming a target of bullying. I used to mind my own business, but when Hebrew's family had money, he was the only one who didn't look down on me, who offered me milk. That carton of milk was imported, and he handed it to me without a second thought. I thought he had forgotten, but I never did. So when his family fell on hard times, I found myself drawn to him, wanting to help, getting myself into trouble. I endured many beatings for him, once to the point I couldn't catch my breath. I didn't tell Hebrew, worried it would upset him. He was the only one in my narrow fate who smiled like sunlight, and I didn't want to make him suffer, not even if it meant taking the hits myself. Hebrew gradually became like a conjoined twin to me. Wherever I went, he was there. In his childish voice, he solemnly vowed, "I will work hard to make money when I grow up and marry you." At that time, we thought that marrying someone was the guarantee of never being separated. I was a bit more mature than him, and I knew it was unrealistic. Children like us poor kids couldn't like each other, or else one would drag the other to hell. Yet for some mysterious reason, I still nodded, "Okay, I'll wait for you." Even today, I look back and still don't know why I nodded. Later, Hebrew had to transfer to another city. He cried in my arms, and I had always followed the principle of it's better to avoid trouble. But that day, my heart was clouded. Why don't you run away from home? We can survive by scavenging. Hebrew nodded earnestly and took my hand as we ran to the outskirts. On foot. At that time, we were so innocent, believing that with our effort we could survive. But less than a day later, the police found Hebrew. No police came for me, because my parents didn't even report me missing. The police brought us back, and when it was time to separate, Hebrew cried, holding me tightly, "Hailey, wait for me. I will definitely come back for you." I already knew that adults often didn't keep their promises, let alone children. Yet somehow when Hebrew said that, I believed him. I didn't cry, but I nodded very seriously. "I'll wait for you." 10 years later, my dad became disabled but was addicted to gambling. Whenever he lost, he would sell off things from our home. And in the end, he pinned all his hopes on me. "If you spend a night with the dealer, we can turn our lives around." He even brought the dealer home, hoping to seal the deal. But that day, my mom had a breakdown, and she grabbed a kitchen knife, attacking anyone in her way. When she came to her senses, she was filled with love for me. She held me tightly and said, "You need to leave and never come back." I escaped with my identification, while my mom set our broken home on fire. From that moment on, I had no home. I worked hard and managed to get a job at the Air Corporation. My colleagues all knew that I was not to be trifled with, and if they got in my way, I would stop at nothing. I had no choice. It was an instinct carved into my bones from childhood. Old classmates heard of my success and came to curry favor, but little did they know how deeply I resented everything from my past. If anyone mentioned they knew the old me, I'd block them immediately without a moment's hesitation. That was my shame, my sore spot, a festering wound that I could not let anyone touch. The innocent little girl named Hailey had vanished. In her place stood the current Hailey, devoid of morals, seeking only pleasure. I drank excessively and danced wildly, living recklessly. I pursued Tony, who came from an intellectual family and had a high education, as if he were the unreachable dream of my childhood. In my childhood fantasies, I envisioned myself as a university professor. Even though I knew Tony was stringing me along, I persisted like a donkey following a carrot, exhausted yet unwilling to give up. There were others pursuing me, including wealthy individuals, but I couldn't stand them. Every detail of their extravagance pierced my self-esteem, which had been ground into the dust during my childhood. They didn't know what it meant to lack money, while I didn't even know what money was. The inferiority embedded in my bones was unchangeable. So there I was, dangling after Tony, squandering my youth, living aimlessly in a distorted sense of inferiority. Until one day in a nightclub, a handsome boy who could be called beautiful approached me. He seemed inexperienced at flirting in nightclubs, clumsily drinking one cup after another, thinking it would please me. I found him foolish and didn't like this clueless guy, but that day I decided to keep him around. It wasn't his drinking that moved me. I simply saw a familiar shadow in him, a shadow tossed aside along with my miserable past, forbidden from any contact, buried deep in my mind. I suspected he worked in nightclub sales. As I took him back, he overheard me drunkenly calling my best friend, cursing those wealthy second-generation rich kids with the most venomous words. I ranted about former classmates, calling them shameless for approaching me. I noticed him stiffen in the passenger seat. I thought I had scared him, so I laughed and patted his head. "Don't worry, I'm not like this in bed." He forced a smile but then fell into deep thought. He said his name was Rocky, with no money and no job. Our boss also has a name starting with R, and I jokingly said to him, "Go check your family tree. Maybe we're distantly related, and you can mooch a little." Rocky laughed awkwardly. He was good-looking and fit, and soon I wanted to live with him. Rocky was pure-hearted. I gave him my card, bought him things, and showered him with luxury, but he never became materialistic. I even thought he had the temperament to be a monk, living a simple and content life. Yet he was so devoted to me. Even when everyone everyone said I was just playing with him, he still earnestly wanted to pursue this relationship. It lasted for 3 years. Humans are not grass or wood. Who can be unfeeling? Every night I screamed in terror from dreams of the past. I passed those nights nestled in his arms. Every time I drank to the point of pain, crying out for my mother. It was Rocky rushing to my side, saying he would love me like my mother did. Every moment I turned into a jealous mess over someone wealthy. It was Rocky silently listening to my darkest thoughts, calmly patting my back. 3 years passed. I told everyone it was just a fling, but I knew deep down it was more than that. I had become emotionally invested. I even thought, if it came to it, I could get Rocky a job in administration and then marry him. But just when I decided to settle down in the 3rd year, Tony returned. When I hosted a welcome dinner for him, I didn't invite Rocky, but Tony saw a photo of Rocky from my friend, grinning with a fake smile. He's quite good looking. I just smiled and stayed silent. A couple of days later, Tony applied to transfer back to headquarters and wanted me to help him daily with work. I agreed. In a moment of excitement, Tony jokingly said, "Kick that poor kid to the curb. It's time to settle down." I frowned at the term poor kid. I didn't like when others described people as poor, and I especially disliked it when they referred to Rocky that way. But in front of me stood Tony. Marrying him would mean joining an intellectual family. My children could one day become university professors. The sufferings and insecurities of my childhood had long twisted into a gaping bloody maw inside me, sharp and fierce, devouring all my feelings, all my conscience. I needed to completely sever the past, to transform into a brand new person, a Hailey that had erased her past. In those days, I didn't dare to look at Rocky. I even avoided talking much, but Rocky thought I was under too much pressure, and even wanted to buy a cat to help me unwind. He made soup for me and invited me to go hiking, being careful and considerate. After much contemplation, I realized the only way I could talk to Rocky was to get drunk. I called my best friend and Rocky to go karaoke, drinking recklessly. The whiskey stung my nose, making me cough until tears streamed down my face. When I got to the point of drunkenness, I lay in Rocky's arms laughing as I said, "We've reached the end." I thought my years of self-disciplinary training had finally paid off. I had become a creature with only goals devoid of emotions. I just said it out loud and watched as Rocky's eyes shifted from bright to dim under the lights of the private room. I thought he would ask me to reconsider. For a moment, I even hoped he would. I felt that if he just opened his mouth, I would genuinely think it over. But he simply stood up, quietly nodded, and turned to leave, as if the 3 years we spent together, the companionship and closeness, meant nothing to him as well. I felt an immediate surge of anger. Originally, Tony had suggested that he suspected I was developing real feelings for Rocky, and that I should push him towards a new client to ease his worries. We had also heard that this new client had just gone through a breakup and had been down for quite some time, making this the perfect opportunity for him. The suggestion was supposed to be for our benefit, and with my ruthless nature, I would have agreed. But that day, I actually wished Rocky would beg me not to break up. Then maybe I would reconsider Tony's plan and wouldn't push Rocky onto someone else. But Rocky showed no reluctance at all. That pierced my heart. I smiled as I handed the room card to Rocky, saying, "Go and accompany the client. Your sister will give you a breakup fee." At that moment, Rocky had already reached the door, the corridor lights illuminating his face. I saw the fleeting pain in his eyes, but strangely it made me happy. At least he was suffering for me. I thought I was fully prepared mentally, but I never expected that seeing Rocky and Serena together would hurt me so much. My heart felt like it was being grasped tightly by an invisible hand, with its nails digging into my flesh, twisting around savagely, sowing confusion and pain within me. This pain exceeded my tolerance, even though I had always been known for my patience and endurance. Ignoring the thoughts of our important client, I rushed up to question Rocky, even though I knew I had lost the right to confront him. Rocky, who had always been gentle, looked at me coldly for the first time and told me that I no longer had the right to care about him. He mocked me with a smile, saying, "Are you thinking about letting go of Tony?" I thought I would shake my head without hesitation. Who wouldn't choose Tony? But in that moment, I surprisingly hesitated. Rationality kept telling me that Tony was the only choice for me to completely break free from the past. Yet there was a voice inside me lamenting, "Can you really let go of Rocky? Are you willing to? How could you bear to?" I grew up in the harshest environment. I had long been accustomed to following rational choices. At that moment, I cried out saying, "I can't let go of Tony." The voice within me sighed deeply, as if foreseeing the pain and loneliness that lay ahead. After Rocky left, I had nightmares every day. In each nightmare, a group of people chased me relentlessly chased me down. There was a figure always by my side, running away with me, but I could never see his face. Every night, I woke up crying, habitually reaching out beside me, searching for Rocky's presence, but he was nowhere to be found. I sat in silence until dawn more than once, telling myself over and over that I would eventually forget. Like childhood memories, things we want to forget will fade away. But I despairingly discovered that this time was different. Rocky was different. I couldn't forget. I saw Rocky picking up Serena from the company. Panic, jealousy, and pain came came crashing over me. I even thought about rushing up to grab Rocky and ask him to make amends in front of Serena. Watching him drive away in his sports car, I became even more anxious. I feared that if he was happy with Serena, he would never return. I called Rocky, telling him that Serena was just playing with him, that he shouldn't take it seriously. But heaven knows, I had no good intentions. I just couldn't accept that Rocky looked at another woman that way. Yet Rocky replied casually, "You're not just playing with me too." I was stunned. I had no words. Yes, how could I have the right to teach Rocky to understand others? Am I not the one who treated him the worst? That day when Tony proposed to me, I dazedly accepted. I knew I had no way out. I only had Tony now, yet my heart still mourned. It mourned for the important thing I lost, leaving a gap in my heart. It felt empty. I have imagined countless identities for Rocky. A nightclub salesman, a duck, a struggling actor, even a waiter. But I never thought that Rocky would be the heir of the group. When he descended into the conference room, I was shocked. I was shocked because after fighting for so many years, I had a gut feeling that my career was facing a crisis. But after the shock, another kind of panic washed over me. A panic that I couldn't quite articulate. It felt like the greatest pain in life was about to arrive. I was so afraid. I rushed to Rocky's office without caring about my dignity. I even begged him to look at me one more time. If he looked again, would he remember that he once loved me? But he didn't look at me. He was looking at Serena, with the same gaze he once had for me. I never imagined that seeing Rocky look at another woman tenderly would hurt me so profoundly. The pain made me clutch my chest, making it almost impossible to stand. But it was okay, I told myself. After all these years of climbing up, there was nothing I couldn't endure. But then Rocky told me he was Hebrew. I couldn't hold on anymore. The moment the name Hebrew was mentioned, I heard a deafening sound in my mind. Boom. That was the sound of the high walls I had built. The memories I had buried deep inside. Those cruel, awkward, painful memories surged forth together. And at the deepest part of the ruins stood a little boy. Looking at me quietly, we promised to be together. Have you forgotten? I fell down and scraped my hand. Blood flowed out, staining my palms. But I didn't care at all. I stared at Rocky, finally remembering where I had seen his familiar face. The sorrow in my heart turned into a wail. I warned you, I clearly warned you. Tears unknowingly crawled down my face. I was in so much pain that I couldn't stand up. My pillar of childhood, my hope and youth. The only beautiful memory amidst my ugly past, the only pure existence, was tossed aside like a toy played with until I grew tired of it and handed it off to someone else. I suddenly recalled that after breaking up with Rocky, I found all the cards in my drawer, saw all the gifts in my wardrobe. Only my sketchbook was missing, the one I had thrown away, but Rocky picked up again as if it were a treasure, carefully stored away. Inside the sketchbook were the warm details of our childhood, and now Rocky returned that dearly cherished sketchbook to me, severing our last connection. I covered my face and cried out in pain. Rocky applied iodine and put on a band-aid for me. He sighed, "Hailey, we've really come to the end." I seemed to hear him lamenting too. In those days I waited. If only once you had turned back we wouldn't have ended up like this. Suddenly I had no strength to respond. For over 10 years I fought for everything and never easily gave up. As long as I could still speak, I could defend myself. But at this moment I was worn out. I could let down anyone, but I couldn't let down Hebrew. That was the thing that shattered me the most. It was enough to drain all my strength. Later I took a month off. I searched high and low for a temple, hoping for a chance to turn back time. It seemed to become my solace for living. Yet after a month, time continued to move forward. My despair grew daily, as did my longing for Rocky. I couldn't help but go see him. He was sharp in his suit, smiling brightly, looking very happy. I suddenly realized this was a happiness I had never seen before, a happiness I had never given him. I knew I should let him go, to be happy like this, but I still felt unwilling. I really wanted so very much. My Hebrew, my Rocky, the only person in the world, besides my mom, who had ever treated me well, even better twice. I begged Rocky for another chance, but he interrupted me, smiling as he looked ahead. I turned my head. There stood Serena. She was dressed in a beige dress, standing in the sunlight, gentle and bright. Her smile pierced through me. It was a smile I could never possess. Living in the shadows, the long-gone insecurity came flooding back. I retreated to a corner, watching as Rocky and Serena walked away hand in hand, bitterly tasting the pain of jealousy gnawing at me. At that moment, I understood I had lost all my chances. It was time for me to exit. I quit my job. I used to be someone who was determined to climb higher, but overnight I lost my spirit. I broke off my engagement with Tony. Tony once asked me, "Is it because I can't find a job now that you look down on me?" I shook my head. No, it was me who looked down on myself. I returned to my alma mater and opened a small convenience store nearby. The store faced the playground, the place where Hebrew and I often sat to watch the stars. Back then, little Hebrew pointed to the sky and said, "Hailey, my Aries is over there, your Scorpio is over here." I didn't know if he was right, but I played along. Not far apart, that means Aries and Scorpio are good friends, they'll never be separated. Hebrew Hebrew scratched his head and laughed, just like us, never apart. I watched over the convenience store, gazing at the stars on the playground. Even now, I still can't distinguish which is Aries and which is Scorpio. But it doesn't matter as long as they are the stars Hebrew and I have seen together. As long as I still hold on to those memories. Later, I lived in solitude until old age. There were always news of Hebrew appearing online. He married Serena and had a son and a daughter. His family business grew larger and he matured, no longer the naive boy chasing love. One time a reporter asked him curiously, "Have you only loved your wife in your entire life?" I saw him pause for a second before nodding with a smile. Yes. I covered my face and cried. That year I turned 50. That year I could finally tell Aries from Scorpio. But it didn't matter anymore. For the rest of my life, I would never see my Hebrew, my Rocky, my boy again. The end. If you like Kitten's story, please follow and like it. Updated every morning at 9 a.m.